On this episode of Hoosier Adventures, we check out Munich, Germany. So here we are on a train from the Munich airport. The Munich airport is very clean, very efficient, and has great transport links. So we're going to start off checking out my favorite building, not just of Munich, but of the entire trip, and that is Munich's City Hall. It's this amazing looking building. It's from the mid to late 1800s. And though the building looks great, sits on this amazing square, you see all these people walking around. My favorite part of the building is actually what's underneath of it. So underneath Munich City Hall is the Ratskeller. Now, if you've seen my previous video about Frankfurt, Germany, where we tried to go to the Ratskeller, which was in Frankfurt's City Hall, it wasn't open. So here in Munich, when we saw that it was open, we definitely knew that we had to do it. We had to go eat there. So in the Ratskeller, you can see all these amazing paintings on the walls. The food was great. A little bit about price, though. It's not as expensive as you think it would be, but it's still a little bit expensive. So I don't remember how much it was per person, but overall it cost us less than we thought it would, but it was still kind of expensive. Of course, like a lot of German restaurants, it has great pork knuckle. So if you don't know what to get, I recommend that you get the pork knuckle. It seems to be the German equivalent of the hamburger. Even when it's not that good, it's still great. Munich has all these narrow alleyways and narrow streets that give the city a cool maze-like feel. Now, through the alleyway here, you're going to see Munich's most famous church, which is called the Frauenkirche. Please excuse my bad German pronunciation. But all around this sort of maze-like street layout are different souvenir shops selling, of course, beer steins, as well as the other knickknacks that you can purchase for souvenirs, places to eat, and, of course, Munich is famous for its beer halls. I mean, it's the home of Oktoberfest. And we'll get a little bit more of that later on. If you want to see some video of a beer hall, just make sure to stay tuned. Now, the Frauenkirche, unlike a lot of other big churches in Europe, is sort of hemmed in by buildings on all sides. So you can't really get a good appreciation for how big it is until you get farther away from the church. We're here, we're up close, and that giant brick structure in front of you is actually the gigantic church. Let's go inside and have a look. Compared to other churches in Europe, especially some of the other more famous churches, this one has a very Spartan feel. You'll notice this whitewashed color on all the walls. I enjoyed that. I found that refreshing, especially after coming from Berlin's cathedral, which is very, very decadent and filled with gold stuff, and just kind of looks like they spent a quadrillion dollars on it. This had a very nice Spartan feel, so I enjoyed it. There's some interesting myths and history about this church. If you're interested, I always recommend that you check out Wikipedia, but there's a wives' tale about the devil coming to the church and not being able to see the windows. There's also a mysterious footprint outside the church, which is rumored to be left by the devil. So overall, it's got all kinds of stories that surround it like that, and it makes it really cool to learn about. You're going to notice this giant clock here in the middle of the screen. Really cool. Of course, Germany is famous for its cuckoo clocks. At least this area of Europe, Switzerland and Germany are famous for its cuckoo clocks. And you can see those in the gift shops. They're for sale. They range from the affordable to the impossible to afford. Now, one of these towers you're able to go up into, I'm not sure which one. We actually didn't do it that day, but you'll notice one of these towers is under renovation right now. And now we're going to check out Munich's famous English Garden. So don't let the name deceive you. It's actually still in Munich, Germany. This is a gigantic park. So I have footage from this park, and I spent about 2 hours there. I did not see very much of the park, at least geographically. So I saw the southern portion of the park, which sort of terminates near the city center. But this park is huge. You can definitely spend all day there if you really want to. Filled with all kinds of cool streams. There's waterfalls, all kinds of hiking trails and things like that. So yeah, if you really want to, you can go spend all day here. The name is a little bit misleading, English Garden. There's an interesting bit of history about that. So if you want to check that out, if you're a history buff. If you're not a history buff, I won't bore you with it because it's actually kind of long and convoluted. To get to the English Garden from my hotel, I actually took one of Munich's streetcars. Munich has a very large streetcar network. It also has an Unterbahn, which is a subway, and it also has an S-Bahn, which is sort of the commuter rail system, we'll call it that. So it has great transport links. I recommend taking the streetcar if you can. The streetcar system is harder to navigate. It winds on all the different windy kind of maze-like city streets and things like that, and a map can be kind of confusing and hard to read. It's much easier to take the U-Bahn or the S-Bahn, but if you can, I recommend staying above ground and taking one of the city streetcars. Now, this video was shot the Saturday before Easter, so if it looks like no one's on the streets, it's because of the holiday. I mean, there were times that day when you just couldn't find a person. And this is pretty early in the morning. I think I arrived at the English Garden around 8 o'clock, and I ended up getting back on the S-Bahn to go back to my hotel at about 10, and there's just no one out. So if you want to have a German vacation and be able to enjoy Germany without other human beings around, make sure to do that the day before Easter. There are some famous tourist sites in Munich that I don't have video of. One is the site of the 1972 Olympic Games. That's on the north side of Munich, I believe, and it really kind of didn't seem like it was worth the effort for me to get over there and just kind of look at a bunch of old Olympic facilities. So I didn't end up going to see that. The other thing I don't have video of is the Munich residence, which is the former palace of a monarch, a Bavarian monarch. It was, I would say it's a skip. Unless you're really into that kind of stuff, it's a skip. It took several hours to get through, even though it wasn't a guided tour. It took several hours to get through, and in the end, it was just kind of boring. Now, there's a really famous room in there that's like a long, giant hallway. A lot of people take photos there. You'll see that online if you look for photos of Munich, Germany. I would list it as a pass. My wife and I both went, and it's, the number one thing to do in Munich or something. But it was not worth it. It was I'd rather see other stuff. And then the third thing that I don't have sight of is Munich was home to Hitler's famous attempted coup d'état, the Munich beer hall putsch, which is very close to the Munich residence. The site of that is certainly walking distance, about 10 minutes away. So we ended up not seeing that, although you can go there. I kind of doubt that there's some kind of memorial there to that, but yeah, you can check that out if you want to. People actually surf these waterways within the park. So there's an underground surfing scene here in Munich, Germany. Didn't see any of the surfers the day that I was there, otherwise I would have taken video of them. But yeah, believe it or not, people will get out and they will surf on this somehow. And from the videos I've seen online, it looks like they're pretty successful. You'll notice that this part of this river running through the English Garden here is incredibly shallow when the camera looks over. Now, Munich's most famous event, of course, is probably Oktoberfest. It happens every year. Personally, I'm glad I wasn't there for Oktoberfest. This is a Munich beer hall. It's affiliated with a large brewery. It's called the Augustiner Keller Brewery, and this is their corresponding beer hall. Definitely recommend going to a beer hall and eating, having a couple brews. This is the inside of it. You'll notice there's not very many people here because when we go outside, there's just a mass of people. The weather was great, so everyone was sitting outside. I mean, this place was like printing money that day. So definitely check them out, though. This is really the only major one we saw, but there are some other really famous ones downtown. And this is my journey back from the English Garden. I'm about to get on the S-Bahn. This is a combined S-Bahn and U-Bahn station. And there are no human beings. This is about 10 o'clock in the morning, the day before Easter, and it was incredibly eerie. So originally, I made it over all the way to this ticket machine on the far side, realized there were no people, and thought, well, I better take some video of this. This might be my only chance to get an abandoned subway station on camera. Overall, though, German public transportation is very nice. I enjoyed the convenience of it. Also, it's low price. So I'm about to buy an S-Bahn ticket on here, and I think it cost me like $2.90, of course euros, to get back to my hotel, which was very cheap for how far away I was. Overall, I really enjoyed Munich. I'm glad I didn't have to fight the crowds at Oktoberfest. But if that is your thing, make sure to go do it because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. I hope you enjoy this video here of the S-Bahn Station. And like, comment, subscribe, and be on the lookout for more Hoosier adventures.